Thanks for checking out this movie review video. This is for the 2023 film The Unheard. It's a Shudder original film and it's coming to Shudder on Friday, March 31st. So, no spoiler review since this is a new one. Also no spoiler just because when I'm putting this up it hasn't even hit Shudder yet. So you can do spoilers in the comments, just know that. And I'm very interested in hearing what people have to say all the time on these films, especially if they disagree with me. And I'm going to tell you up front, I was not a big fan of this film, so I, in particular want to hear from people who did like it to some degree. But, every film is for someone, and my opinions, just so you know, are my opinions. And if a film doesn't work for me, it doesn't mean it won't work for other people. I always hope that films find an audience. So here we go. Directed by Jeffrey A. Brown. This is the individual's directorial debut. Other than that, they were a manager for a lot of scout locating. Location manager, so scout location involved in that. Written by Michael Rasmussen and Shawn Rasmussen, who also wrote scripts for Long Distance, The Ward, Dark Feed, The Inhabitants, and Crawl. I have seen Crawl, and I did enjoy that one. Again, Shudder original, coming Friday, March 31st. Synopsis. I don't want to give too much away, but for anyone who does want to see it, it's about a girl who has lost her hearing, or has severe hearing issues, basically, and she is enrolling in this new study to try and see if it can be, the clock can be turned back and she can get her hearing back. She does that, and simultaneously she is also, after that, she's also going to work on kind of cleaning up a house that's still in her family, that's no longer in use, that her family was at when her mother went missing. So there is an aspect of like her mother's disappearance along with her, hearing situation going on there. So that's where I'm going to leave it. Obviously there's horror to it, so there's horror that pops up at some point. It starts with very muffled noise. Just know it's not a mistake, so don't worry about it. It's actually part of the experience and what they're trying to get the audience to kind of feel. It kind of helps actually bond you a little bit more to the character and kind of understand the character's perspective a little bit more and their world. So I like that aspect of it. I like how it starts. Initially, it started like that, and I'm just like, is there something wrong with the audio? I don't know. But trust me, there's nothing wrong with the audio. The pre-title scene does make you kind of wonder where the film is going. It does set up a kind of interesting premise. It doesn't give you a lot, but the introduction of the main character is interesting enough, and what she's going through is interesting enough that it kind of, it doesn't like fully hook you in and make you like, dun dun dun, this is going to be something interesting. But it gets you a bit curious, or at least it did for me. It got me a little bit curious. You will need to read some texts, mainly in the beginning of the film. That changes as it goes on. So I know some people aren't big into like having to read when they're watching films, so I just want to throw that out there. Also, while I'm on the topic of things, like kind of disclaimers for this, there is a disclaimer in the beginning of the film, which I think was a good idea. There are some sustained sequences of kind of, like blinking lights. So for anyone with epilepsy or just who can't handle that, just know about that. Very early, you get the idea this will be a slow-moving film. And let me tell you, it is a very slow-moving film. Way too much, in my opinion. I really think that this needed to be cut down significantly. The film, with credits, is 2 hours and 5 minutes. And for what story they have there, there's no way it should have been this long. I'll talk a little bit more about my feelings on this as we go on, but just want to say that up front. They needed to do a better job with lighting, especially because the color palette is so drab. Now, they've chosen a color palette that has been used in horror so much. This is a trend. I'm not the biggest fan of it because I'm getting kind of sick of it, because it seems like every single horror film I'm seeing nowadays is using the same very drab, like bleached color palette. I'm not into it. I know some other people like it. It was fine for a while, but like it's getting overused. But that's not my biggest issue. My biggest issue is, especially with a color palette like that, you need to have decent lighting. They do not have decent lighting. There are a lot of scenes that you can't see everything you want to see. There are even some scenes where it is 100% pitch black, and it does nothing for the film, it enhances nothing, you can see nothing. I don't understand the purpose for that. Get your lighting together. Relying on primarily natural lighting is not a way to do a film. We need to get things back to actually properly lighting scenes. Because a film is dark doesn't mean you have to be able to see almost nothing. It can be dark, but you can still see everything. It's been done by plenty of filmmakers before. Even been some really good recent examples. So this is just, I'm sorry, this is something that really gets to me. I'm going to go off about it every single time. It's ridiculous. There's no reason for it. But anyway, off that soapbox. It really doesn't, it really isn't until after 30 minutes into the film that things get more interesting. Because like I said, like the initial scene kind of, piques your interest a little bit, and then it kind of like backpedals. But, that you would assume that because they kind of need to establish character, give you a little backstory, stuff like that. So it's a bit after 30 minutes that you actually get something that, will hook you in and make you like, okay, I'm paying attention. Let's see where this is going. As the film goes on, the audio mixing does stand out because it's very well done. Anytime you have a film that makes something that people don't usually pay attention to stand out, like audio mixing in this instance, whenever that happens, it's because it's done extremely well. And it's done very well in this. I think the choices with it were very smart. It really does help to enhance certain aspects of the film and make you feel more from the perspective of the main character. So I love the audio mixing in this. They did a wonderful job. You'll see what I mean if you watch it. As the film goes... Oh, I literally just read that. I'm sorry. Tired. The main character is very flat, unfortunately. But I don't think it's the actress's fault. I think this plays more to me like it was a direction choice. Like, play the character kind of flat. It doesn't do anything for the film, to be honest. It actually makes it kind of boring. You want a more dynamic character. The character's just flat throughout, unfortunately. But the actress is fine. I mean, I've seen the actress in other stuff. It's, I think her name's Lachlan Watson. She was in Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, and more recently, season 2, I think just season 2, of Chucky, which is a great show. Excuse me. So yeah, but the flat character thing, not great. There is something that happens between characters that is very out of kind of nowhere and kind of odd and feels very shoehorned into the film at one point. It doesn't, like, destroy the film. It doesn't derail everything, but it's definitely one of those moments where you're kind of like, what? This doesn't really seem like, for what has happened in this film, that this would be happening right now with these characters. It's a very odd thing. Like I said, it feels shoehorned in. I don't understand it. It does feel like the film loses focus a lot and kind of gets stuck in mundane details. There's a lot of the kind of like side roads it takes into being mundane. Literally like following people doing stuff that doesn't really mean a whole lot to the film. And they really take their sweet time doing a lot of stuff. That leads you to believing what I'm going to tell you, which is the pacing is awful. The pacing is horrible. Horrible. And that speaks to also how long this film is. At 2 hours and 5 minutes, you need to have a lot more to it. You need a lot more story than there actually was in this film, and you need character development, which there isn't very much character development. You also might need to develop more than one character too, but even the main character isn't even developed that much. You need a lot more character development for the main character. Needed maybe some other characters to have some character development as well, if you're going to have a film that's this long. In this instance, I would just say cut this film down. In my opinion, this film should have been cut down at least 40 Oh my gosh. At least 40 minutes. My apologies. Please. Let's get the opposite of director's cut on this. The ending plays out so slowly that it loses much of any tension that it could have ended up building. And also, the music ends up being mismatched at times. There is literally music playing that are for more subtle moments, when it really needed to be a little more like heart-pounding upbeat to like get you into that moment, especially with the fact that everything's playing out so slowly. I don't think they knew what they were doing with the music on that one. For the most part, the music's fine throughout. It's just, in the end, you got to nail that stuff, and in the end, they did not nail that stuff. I'm just talking about specifically with the ending. So yeah, but again, the pacing is terrible. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Although I'd be very interested to hear the thoughts from Entropy Stings, frequent commenter on these videos, because they are an individual who definitely has a different opinion. They like much slower films than I do, and they usually have really good, interesting insights on that type of stuff. So I'd love to hear their opinion on this one, because sometimes we actually agree on that, though. That's what ends up surprising me. And again, for how long this is, it needed way more story, it needed more character development. I was not a fan. I found this film to be overall boring, and the story to be overall a flop for me. So out of 5 stars, half stars possible, this is a 1.5 star film for me, unfortunately. I was not a fan of this one. Not great. The directing was fine. I mean, I didn't see any like awesome inspired shots or anything, but it's a directorial debut, so I don't, need to see anything like that. So I would say for the first time directing, not bad. Like, not bad at all. Like, it's a good place to start. The story needed so much work. The editing needed to be done much better, and all the other things, the lighting, all that stuff. But would love to hear everyone else's opinion on this. Go ahead and put it in the comments. Like I said, spoilers are okay in the comments. Also, hit subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I would 100% appreciate that. It really helps keep me motivated because, at times I'm not as motivated. And when I keep getting more subscribers and I get comments from people, it helps. Also, hit the notification bell button if you want to know when I'm putting up new videos, which I'm doing 3 to 4 a week, depending on when the Shudder original / exclusive films are coming out. So I think that's a good amount, putting in a lot of work. But regardless, thank you for watching this video, and until next time, keep it brutal.